This is a message to Jim Carrey, comedian Jim Carrey, and I'd like to preface this by saying that I am a massive fan of yours. I have been for your entire career. I've been there. I've grown up with you. I've grown old with you. I've totally enjoyed just about all of your work. Obviously, you are brilliant, genius. And what was the icing on the cake for me in terms of my admiration and respect for you was that I was under the impression that you were on a spiritual path, and that you were a disciple of sorts of of Eckhart Tolle, who, as many people may know, is the author of The Power of Now. Sort of a guidebook for spiritual enlightenment, and The Power of Now is also very similar to A Course in Miracles. It talks about being in the now, and when you're in the now, that means you don't drag the past into the now. You don't focus on the future and bring that into the now. So you don't dwell on grievances or resentments. You let go of anger, because being in the now, if you have grievances and resentments, you're in the past. You're not in the now. You're not there's no chance of having any kind of eternal bliss or inner peace if when you're not in the now. When you're focusing on the past or the future, you're really just hallucinating. You're in an illusion, a dream, a trance, a nightmare of sorts, and your ego is in charge, not your higher self, not your God self, so to speak, but your ego is in charge when you're full of anger and rage and resentment and bitterness, etc. So, Jim, when I saw that you were a follower or a believer of Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now, I assumed that you had worked through a lot of your anger and harsh judgment and rage. But seeing all your paintings on Twitter, and obviously all the rage that you have towards President Bush, my conversation with you is not about whether President Bush has any merits whatsoever, whether he's good, bad, or ugly. This isn't about him at all. It's about you. And I believe that, and I'm like you in that I believe in that I'm on a spiritual path of trying to release judgment and negativity and grievances and resentments, and let go of anger and embrace forgiveness and compassion and love as much as possible, and acceptance and tolerance as much as possible. I think that's the spiritual path, and that's the path to inner peace and world peace, I believe. So I have fallen into this same trap of getting angry and getting judgmental. I see somebody does something and I get really upset and I want to Twitter blast them or whatever. And I'm able to catch myself and not do it because it's not my path. And I thought that wasn't your path either. I thought you were on a path of not wanting to, wanting to be free and at a place of bliss and joy and be, free, inner peace and contentment. And that would mean you wouldn't be angry and twisted and drawing all these, grotesque images of people you apparently hate, Trump and the other guy, Jared and Sarah Huckabee. So your message is one of great rage and anger, and of course you feel justified. Our ego is very justified when we identify people who we judge to be evil and terrible and demons and monsters, and we feel very justified in trashing them. But that's if you understand that this is an illusion, that will one day break free of. A dream, a nightmare we'll one day wake up from, then perhaps part of you might know that what you're doing of just attacking and judging and all your rage and anger is not good for you. It's not good for you, for your spiritual evolution, and ultimately it's not good for everybody, for humanity. I think the path. I think you've lost your way. I could be wrong, but I think you should examine this and stop doing that and find other ways to enlighten people and raise their consciousness. I thought that's what you were doing with some of the videos I had seen of your talks. I don't think this is productive for anybody, and for anybody to be to just be so attacking and so angry. It's not the path to peace. It's not the path, I think, to what we all want, which is ultimately for all of us to get along, to feel safe and secure, for there to be trust amongst our fellow citizens, for there to be compassion and understanding amongst our fellow citizens, and to utilize the democratic process, which I don't believe is in eviscerating those we hate, calling it satire. Oftentimes, many of the late night show hosts now they call it comedy and satire, but it's just a political agenda. They hate him, they fear him, they want to destroy him, they want to influence as many people to hate him and fear him and destroy him. And again, I'm not defending him at all. But I'm defending spiritual concepts of compassion, forgiveness, acceptance. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm a big fan of the Golden Rule, and I'm a big fan of the Bible. The part that, I pick and choose. The part that I pick that I like is when Christ says, love ye one another. And when he says, love thy enemies as you would thy friends, I think anyone who's at all religious and at all has read that passage and puts any faith or belief in it, then you should try to practice it. As very hard and as very difficult as that may be, particularly when we are faced with monsters or people we perceive as monsters or situations we perceive as monstrous. It's very difficult to rise above the battlefield. It's very difficult to put your ego aside. The ego just gets so much pleasure out of attacking someone with our righteous indignation. The ego loves it. It feels great. It might be greater than sex. I don't know. It might be greater than a hot fudge sundae. Not sure about that. But we love our rage, our justified rage, and in those moments of our justified rage, we get very impulsive and we say and do things, and that may not be actually the best expression or the best tactic. But in that moment of rage, it feels so good, but it's not good. It's not good. It diminishes and demeans us when we behave that way. It doesn't actually improve the situation whatsoever. It may churn up mobs and get a mob of people to a mob mentality going. I don't think that's a good thing either. I think we need to be able to talk to each other and to criticize each other and attack each other's ideals and principles if need be, but in a civilized fashion, in a way that the message can be heard. I talk about, when you get into arguments with people you care about, that if you know that you're going to say something to them and they're going to get defensive and angry, rather than just immediately going, you're out of your mind, this is what's going on here, you validate first. I love you, I care about you, I appreciate you, but you misunderstood and misinterpreted what I said, what I did, and you've come up with a conclusion about me that's false. Or, I can understand how you might have how you feel. I can see you're very hurt by this, but you misunderstood. You misinterpreted what I said. I did not say that. I did not. That was not my intention to imply that. So you validate first, and then you make your critical position. And that when you do that, there's a much greater chance that the other person's going to hear your criticism rather than get defensive and angry. So it's always better. So, and I think our biases, our prejudices, our hatred for people, we tend to not be able to see anything good in them. We just tend to demonize them completely and paint them with a broad brush of evil, and that's not always fair or right. And particularly these days, when the Me Too days, where some women accuse some men, let's say, an actor or director, and immediately the person, whatever good things that person ever did in their lifetime, is completely gone. It's just that they're just now judged by that one thing. Hey, it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's not a bad thing, but do we completely erase the good that somebody also has? I mean, we're all imperfect beings. Don't we recall that? Don't we realize that? So to negate people completely is a bad thing. And so, right, if we fear and hate Trump and fear that he's going to blow us all up and destroy the environment and, and tear up families and all this stuff, the guy, by getting in his face and ridiculing him and shaming him and attacking him and calling him all sorts of names, this is childish, this is foolish. And it's dangerous because a guy like that was every single day for like 15, 16 months, every single day, millions of people attacking him. Do you really think that, that helps him to have a balanced perspective on anything? Do you think perhaps it might make him more entrenched in whatever position he's got when he sees all these people coming out of the woodwork and saying all sorts of awful things, and some of them just aren't true? And if he perceives that any of the things that are said are exaggerations and distortions and a twist of facts and not actually what he said or did, then that makes him just totally disregard all of his critics. It's just sloppy and foolish to just do this constant assault on him. It's much better, in my opinion, to find ways to civilly express your disdain and your discontent without all of the drama and hysteria and rhetoric and shaming and attacking and name calling. And it really is, it's short-sighted. Just think about it. Put yourself in that position. Think about how you would feel if somebody, like, you said the sky is blue and they said you think the sky is blue, that makes you a racist. Stick to the facts. If you feel he's racist because of A, B, C, or D, say that. But when he says the sky is blue, don't attack him for being a racist or a sexist. I know that analogy seems absurd, that example seems absurd, but it's not. People, our biases are so strong. Our resentments and bitterness and fear is so strong that he can say something that's fairly neutral, and yet we infer that he's implying that what he's really saying, what he really means, and it all comes back to validate our bias and our anger and our rage, and then we attack him based on that. It's not good. We have to really get back to the truth. And if you can't make your case by sticking to facts and truth, if you have to make your case by distorting what he said, or clipping a piece of a video out that makes him look bad, even though other parts of the video correct the misperception, it's sloppy. It's sloppy. And other people, the people who like him, will recognize that it's sloppy, and that'll make them like him more. Look, our biases are huge, and we have to not let our biases get in the way of facts. Okay, so if you hate Donald Trump, you still need to try to recognize and acknowledge anything good that he does, rather than say he's completely awful and there's nothing good there and there's nothing to negotiate or compromise or cooperate with. If you love Donald Trump, you can't love everything. If you love him, you also have to say, yeah, except that, yeah, it's true. These things that he did over here and there, not good, not cool. This thing here where he said that, but he did that, not cool. He said that, it turned out not to be that, not cool. I still love him. I still want to vote for him, but you have to admit the good, the bad, and the ugly of everybody. Those you like, those you don't like. Same thing with Hillary Clinton. You love her, great. Recognize it wasn't too smart having a server in the basement. You love her, great. Recognize that the DNC colluding to dump Bernie Sanders and have her secured the nomination, along with their super delegates. That is a rigged system. Again, hey, guess what? This has nothing to do with me promoting Democrats or Republicans or Trump or Hillary. Super delegates just makes no sense. The fix is in. If it happens to be the person you love, then great. Ha. They got a 600-point lead right out of the gate. If it's someone like you, and it's not someone you love getting all the super delegates, like perhaps you were a Bernie fan and you got burned by the super delegate. Okay, what does it all mean? It means that we can't just put everybody on pedestals, and whitewash the people we like, and just and blacklist and destroy the people we hate. There needs to be fairness about judging people. You recognize the good in them, you recognize the bad in them. Whether you like them or don't like them. It all matters. It all matters. But what really matters, I think, and this goes back to the original thing, is, well, when you're out there, anybody, Jim Carrey or anybody else, when you're scanning the social media and something irritates you or jumps out at you as outrageous or racist or sexist or this or that ist, really, maybe, and you got this impulse to just totally eviscerate the person and destroy them on social media. Perhaps you could step back and think about, A, is this the best way to express my displeasure? B, yeah, right, is there another way to say it perhaps? Perhaps it's none of my business and maybe I should say nothing. But if I have a big need to say something, maybe there's a way to say it with some kind of compassion or kindness. That's not weak. It's not weakness to try to have compassion at the same time that you try to inform your enemy, how short-sighted and foolish or narrow-minded or dangerous they might be. It's called diplomacy. It's called tactfulness. You use tactfulness, you use diplomacy in your life, with people in your life, right? You get a lot more. You get a lot more. You attract more bees with honey than vinegar. Yeah. So, but none of us are showing diplomacy anymore or tactfulness anymore in the social media. We're all just out there with a voice, and we use that voice like a sledgehammer to just attack people we don't like or people that annoy us, or do something that we find what's the word now? We're sensitive to it. What we find offensive. And so we take our voice and we use it as we take our free speech, we use it as a hammer to destroy somebody else. It's not healthy. It's not good.